Welcome, friends and guests, back to the Start a Glamping Business podcast by Glampitect and Sage Outdoor Advisory. I'm your co-host, Connor Schwab, back with Nick Perslow for our once a month special. We're extremely excited about this episode. We've got what's become a dear friend and quite an inspirational person in the industry who's setting a phenomenal example, and that is Bygnal Duston, the founding partner of Open Sky in Zion, Utah. And me and my team at Sage are very close to Bygnal in this project. We've actually helped with 2 of their appraisals for both of their expansions, so kind of have been alongside them for a lot of this journey. I've got to see them grow and the success that they've reached in building a business and a brand and many happy customers. I guess for a little to let the guests know, when Sage is looking at comps, we come up with 5 areas that we score a property, and 2 of those areas are the quality of the property itself and the quality of the units themselves. And when we look at Open Sky, we give it a 5 out of 5 in both of those categories, which is super rare. There's only probably a couple glamping properties in the countries like with that score. So I definitely recommend you to look at the Open Sky website. Their safari tent units are absolutely incredible with some really unique features that Bygnal added in, and the property itself is absolutely stunning. It's a horseshoe canyon with I think it's something like 70 acres or something like that, but great spacing between the units. It's super peaceful, and it's right outside of Zion National Park. I had a chance to view the property about a year and a half ago, and it's probably my favorite glamping location or property in the U.S. So, Bygnal, great to have you on board. Nick, you want to say anything before we rock and roll?
No, very happy for you to continue.
All right, perfect. Well, Bygnal, thanks so much for being on the show. Would love a little bit of just an intro and background on yourself. How you ended up launching Open Sky.
Well, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it, and Connor, thanks for that introduction. It's definitely a lot of big ambitions to live up to, so I really do appreciate that and all the support that Sage Outdoor Advisories has given us along this journey. And then Nick, it's a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance too. So I'm excited to be here with you guys today. So as far as kind of like the beginning journey of Open Sky, it really kind of began back in 2016, 2017, just kind of when Under Canvas was just really getting started. There wasn't still a whole lot of people out there in the space yet, and my biggest inspiration during that period of time was actually Pause Up. Like they were actually had one of the very first functioning luxury resorts here in the U.S. back in 2009. So they were kind of like my vision that I had on my wall. So I was pretty young at the time. I was 22, 23 when I very first came across a picture of a tent out in the woods up in Jackson Hole. Was my very first impression of glamping, and I thought it was just so freaking cool that you could create this out in the wilderness. And up to that time, I was mostly had kind of a construction background. I got into truck driving for a period of time. That's when I started listening to audiobooks. And from there, I kind of got into general contracting, built a few houses, realized I didn't want to do that anymore. Started a cleaning business. We sold it. And then I decided to go to school at Dixie State here locally just to kind of get some inspiration in life. Spent 3 years there, got my associate's degree, ended up met a wonderful mentor friend of mine, and he really helped me think differently about business, and that's honestly where it kind of really got started. Was kind of like building like the ideal business or lifestyle that you really wanted. So what I really can realize with myself is like I loved creating things, I loved being outdoors, I loved business, I loved meeting people, and I loved traveling. And so glamping kind of fit all of those in that bucket, and that's really what just got me started.
When it became apparent that you wanted to do some kind of glamping business, how did it actually come about where you made the decision to go, right, we're going to do this? What do we do next?
There was a lot of tippy-toeing around, like getting your feet wet, like looking at the ideas. We started looking for property. I grew up here right by Zion National Park, so this is my backyard. I feel very fortunate and lucky that it is my backyard and that this is the place that Open Sky got started. First thing we started with was our brand. It's like, who did we want to attract? Who do we want our ideal target audience to be? And we built, at that time, kind of this really boutique, luxury, niched outdoor accommodation style. And at the time, wasn't really very popular out there. But that's kind of what we wanted to do. So once we created the brand, we started looking for property. We spent 2 years looking for the right piece until this one finally came into our laps, and essentially to start this project. And that's when we finally fully committed. Was like, okay, here's the land, here's the contract, ready to put your money where your mouth is, and that's really what I got started.
Amazing. And it's such a stunning piece. I guess, how did you find it? And if you'd be willing to share anything about, what it cost to acquire, or just what the construction looked like in terms of how many units and what your cost was per unit. And I know you have a super impressive solar setup, among other things, on the property, because it's mostly off grid. Love to hear about that.
Yeah, we could probably spend an entire day just talking about all the challenge and difficulties with this piece. I was doing a remodel project for a friend of mine up by Springdale, and then one day he called me up. He's like, "Hey, dude, I just found this piece. I think it's gonna be perfect for you." It just came on the market. We cruised up there, and I'm like, "Absolutely yes." And at that time, this piece is 3.5 miles off the main highway. It was pretty much up a four-wheeler dirt trail to get up there. It was fully, I mean, there was no utilities up there. It was complete raw ground, off the beaten path, up in nature. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is perfect. This is exactly what I was looking for. But at the time, I didn't really understand the challenges of that commitment. And those all came to fruition later on. That's when.
Not making it easy on yourself.
No, I should have found something that had water and power already by it. So we was able to get it, and then realized we had to create a public water system. So I had to go through that entire journey trying to get water rights there. There was kind of a dry canyon. We had to completely improve the roadway in conjunction with the county on the county road. We ran into some easement issues down below where the farmers moved the road back in the 1980s from the actual dedicated easement. And we had to spend almost 2 years working with the county, with those landowners, to get that road readjusted back to where it was so they could improve it. So then we decided to try to pull power up, worked with the local power company. We put about 1.5 miles of the conduit in for that, and that's when we realized we had a road easement issues because they wouldn't give us an encroachment permit for it. And so pretty much we had to abandon the entire power situation, and if we wanted to get started, we had to just go off grid at that point. So all these different circumstances really pushed us to really look at the idea of off grid. And that's a whole nother challenge inside of itself, which now it's finally working, but in the beginning it was a huge challenge.
When I think of your story, Bygnal, I think of so many hurdles coming up, and you just problem solving and finding a way, through it, over it, around it, under it, like whatever it is, and making it work. And it's such a classic story for that. How long did it, from when you found the property to like when you identified the property to when you hosted your first guest, how long was that?
So we bought the property August of 2018, and it really took me about two years really to kind of put the permits together, kind of get the engineering, the designs. And this is where you spend just hundreds of thousands of hours of really just trying to figure out what you want to do, who you were. I mean, we started out with us building our own tents. We looked at buying sewing machines, building our own patterns, buying canvas. Realized that we weren't tent manufacturers anymore. Actually went to the very first Glamping Summit in 2017 up in Denver. That's when I met Bush Tech, who's our current tent manufacturer, supplier for this property here. But all in all, really, it came full circle. The original plan was to build this 6,000 square foot lodge, 3,000 square foot event center. We was going to put 30 tented accommodations down around the property. Had this big vision, this big plan. A lot of it was in conjunction with the bank, because they wouldn't necessarily loan any funds on tents as collateral. So I had to go kind of build this building as the collateral base for it, was kind of the inspiration at that time. Went through all the feasibility studies, tried to go through a USDA loan. I put together a hospitality team. So I don't come from any hospitality. I'm just a kid off the street that wanted to build something cool. So I put together a hospitality team, I put together a chef, I put together some designers, and put this big team together, and then this whole project ballooned to a $12 to $15 million project. And I was 23, 24, and I had a couple pieces of real estate that ended up selling, so I had a few $100,000 to put in this. And that's when I realized my dreams were a lot bigger than reality at that point. And unfortunately and fortunately at that time, that's right when COVID hit. So right when COVID hit, we was on the point of either pulling this off and making this happening, or it wasn't going to. And that was just the final pin in the hat. Everybody had to go back and take care of their own problems, their own businesses. Everything kind of collapsed on itself. And I went back to my other partners at the time. So I have three partners in this with me. The two of them, three of them are pretty much my best friends. So it's just been kind of us bros on this project. I went back to them like, okay, guys, here we are. What do we do? And luckily at that point, we'll get into some a little more later, I had 3 tent packages finally show up from Africa. They just barely got here a week before the shutdowns happened. And I'm like, okay, guys, we got 3 tent packages here. Nobody will believe us. Like, this is just a crazy, hairy idea. What are we going to do? And I sat down with them, and they're like, okay, we're either going to declare bankruptcy because we put so much money into it and just liquidate everything, or we're going to build these 3 tents. We're going to prove it. We're going to show it can happen. Like, it's there, and we're going to do it. And that's ultimately what we decided to do. So we went back, we did all the engineering drawings very quickly, cut everything out, slimmed everything down. Like, I know 3 tents don't make any sense on paper, but this is what we've got to do. We've got to phase this project. And then we're like, okay, now we need some money. And no bank was going to lend any money once COVID happened, especially in hospitality. We ended up just completely bootstrapping it. We went and took out some more credit cards. We went and got a couple of HELOCs in some of their houses in North Dakota that they had. I went and found my mentor friend. He's like, okay, I'm going to give you guys a hard money loan. I'm going to make sure I'm in a really good position. So if you guys do lose this, I'm sitting good. But I'm willing to take a small risk on you. Anyways, we got that. And then he came back and said, okay, well, I had something else happen with my other investments. I'm going to give you half of what I committed to you. And we, at that point, kind of started construction. So we're like, well, we're already short a couple $100,000. We're just going to keep going anyway. We don't know how this is going to end up, but we're going to go do it. So we started construction July of 2020, which is just a crazy time to start. But honestly, it was the best to kind of go up there, be isolated by ourselves. Just me and Home Depot was our best friends. And in order to bootstrap this, we ended up in house and everything. So I ended up becoming the developer. I became the general contractor. I kind of became the designer. I pulled the team together, and we just spent days up there. Nate, my other partner Nate, brought up his equipment, his track hose, and we just laid pipe and pretty much did everything in house. So we did that for 9 long months of just figuring it out. And then April of 2021, we ran out of money a few times, and we had to go find some more other funds. It's ridiculous thinking about it. So yeah, April 18th, we opened up.
Hi everyone, Nick from Glampitect North America here, and I've just got a very quick message to announce some extremely exciting news. Since launching in July 2022, Glampitect North America has made a name for itself in the North American glamping industry. We've consulted on over 40 glamping projects, accumulated over 47,000 podcast downloads and plays, and we're now ready to take the next step. And with that, we're absolutely delighted to announce that we're beginning the process of developing our own glamping projects. We want you to be involved. There are more details to come, but for now, we're taking expressions of interest from prospective investors. We're so excited to get this going. It's been a long time coming, and we can't wait to get you involved. So all you have to do is fill out the form in the description of this episode, and we'll be in touch with more information very soon. We can't wait to hear from you, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
What was the total cash? It sounds like it was all kind of equity from you and your partners. It sounds like to get the first 3 units open. What was like the total cash investment that took? And then what did the next steps look like for you as far as raising debt?
Yeah, we pretty much were about $1 million into land and water time we got all said and done. And then from there, we were to get another $500,000-$600,000 getting the 3 units up and going, putting kind of the first piece of infrastructure in, getting our water system going. We ended up just using a generator for that first year because we didn't know if we wanted to go fully off grid, go do solar, or try to pull the power up, put a generator up. So we used about 1.6 at that point, kind of when we was all said and done. Between us 4 partners putting it in.
And for you bootstrapping it, the finished product is so good. Like it's just damn near perfection how well the units and the property turned out. So like you would never know that you did it with half the budget and all yourself. So it's kind of a wild story. So just Nick, did you have a question you wanted to follow up with?
No, yeah, I was just going to say, first of all, it's clear that you ran into so many obstacles. Any kind of entrepreneurial story usually has some kind of obstacle, but I think this is pretty extreme, even in the glamping space. When we spoke to Sarah Dusick, who obviously had the issue of being the kind of pioneer in the North American glamping space and having to go through all the issues associated with that. But in terms of project specific issues, this is hard to beat. And as Connor said, you kind of not stumbled through it, deliberately managed to ride through it and set up a pretty slick operation. One area that quite often presents particular challenges is the permitting process. You mentioned you kind of did a lot of it in-house, and you had to work with the county on the roads and things like that. Was that a straightforward part of the process, or did you run into hurdles throughout getting the permits?
Permitting was an absolute struggle. I mean, first of all, Zion National Park, so everything here is extremely hard to get pushed through and done. And then second of all, I didn't have any experience with it. Yeah, I built a couple houses, but that is nothing to this level of sophistication and getting through. As well, on top of that, adding in tented structures into that process. So between the civil engineering, architectural planning, the county permits, we had to get a full-on public water system. So we're pretty much our own little town now. So we had to all get certified by the state, we did all the water testing, had to build our own purification water system in there, and our own sewer distribution system. And then when it came to the county, they were workable. But what really kind of came down to, as far as one of the biggest challenges, is we wanted to really put all the luxuries we have and enjoy inside of our homes into these tents. So my goal was to pretty much create approachable luxury built into nature. So I wanted the guests to have a thin piece of glass or canvas between them and the outdoors, but still experiencing having anything like that at home. So the AC, the heats, we have heated bathroom floors, some of them have got copper tubs, everything's got propane gas fireplaces, outside patios, and really just creating this luxury experience, which really hasn't been done before in the U.S. at that point in time. So it was kind of pioneering some new issues there. So the county had an issue with the AC units because they didn't meet our value rating for the building codes. And ultimately, what I finally got around with that, I finally had found this architect that was willing to sign off and stamp it. And the only way he was willing to do it is there was some little code he found in the Utah code that said, if we create our own energy, we could use it how we wanted it to, essentially. That was the bottom line. And that was kind of the final decision on going solar at that point. Like, okay, so if we put our own solar system in, we're creating our own energy, we can get a full-on building permit for this tented canvas room and put AC units in it. And that's finally what it got pushed through. And we had equipment up there sitting there waiting to go, and it was just super stressful. But we finally got it. And they passed it off, and we got our first 3 permits. And then with the fire chief, it's kind of a one-way road up in there and out. And so the history of the canyon, there's been 5 or 6 fires up that canyon in the past. And he was just super concerned about a development being up there. We had to build a big 300,000 gallon storage area. So we built a big, beautiful pond out of it for the fire chief, and just worked through those issues.
And would you say, we get this question a lot. A lot of people. Would you say that using safari tents made the permitting process easier or harder?
I'd say probably way more difficult, because most of your building permit jurisdictions don't understand the tented concept.
Because we have a lot of guests who come and they're like, oh, it's a tented structure, this is going to be way easier. It's not a full building. This is going to be a lot easier to get through the code. And every jurisdiction is going to be different, so it's certainly not a one size fits all. But honestly, because people don't know how to classify this, or they try to apply traditional building code restrictions to a canvas-based structure, it can set some restrictions that are almost impossible to meet with canvas. So I'm glad you shared that, because it is something that comes up. Canvas can have its own challenges too with the approval process.
And how about the neighbors, Bygnal? How, were they supportive, or were there Facebook groups set up in opposition, as we sometimes hear?
We kept it pretty on the DL. I mean, we did. This is kind of an interesting story. So when we had the big lobby plans, we sent it over to a local contractor for like a roofing quote, and one of the employees there took our renderings and went and posted on the mountain bike community Facebook group, because there is a local mountain bike trail nearby. That was probably the first time we got some PR backlash from it, and it kind of came out of nowhere, because it a little bit kind of frustrated me, because he went and kind of took our plans that they were bidding for this company, threw it out there, and when we were getting our conditional use permit, everybody at that canyon, like, I didn't realize how proud of a canyon it was, and came to find out that one guy back in the late 1800s, early 1900s settled that area, and then all the land pretty much the county was handed down to for the rest of his generation. So some of these parcels have 30, 40 descendants on it that own these parcels. And this created a massive backlash at the county meetings. And so we showed up with a huge opposition with it. And it was definitely scary going through that. This is my first experience with it, and I didn't know if we was going to get it pushed through. And I laid everything out. I'm like, I want 60 units. I want a brewery. I want a restaurant. I want a zip line. I want helicopter pad. I want all these things. I'm just going to go for the big thing. And then
I can't believe you were their client. You were paying them, and one of their employees posted on a Facebook group. What a breach of client confidentiality. I can't believe that.
It was crazy.
And how did you go from opposition when you presented this master plan, which looking back might have been a bit optimistic, certainly for phase one?
How'd you turn this around?
How did you turn it around?
Ultimately, what it came down to is the county put some benchmarks to kind of hit. Like, okay, well, if you hit this, we'll give you this permit, and if you hit this, we'll give you this, to kind of phase this project out. And that's ultimately what it got to. And at that period of time too, the county was very open to more glamping projects, and I was working really closely with the development director, and he was super supportive. If he wouldn't have been supportive in the very beginning, I don't think I would have ever done it. But he was like, yes, we need something luxury like this. Like, this is perfect. We want this inside of our county. So having that on our side is really, I think, what the ticket was. And then just working through each of the local residents' issues. So, I mean, fire. Fire was a big concern. I'm like, okay, no real fires. We're going to ban all fires. Everything's going to be propane. Everything's going to be restricted. Everything's going to be confined. Okay, that kind of took out that problem. And then we just kind of worked through each of these at a period of time. Good
for you. Very solutions oriented. And how did the surrounding area, particularly Zion National Park, one of the, I think it's top 5 or number 5 most visited national park in the country, and gets pretty good year-round visitation. It's got a fairly flat demand curve compared to a lot of locations in the U.S. But how did your area? How did you feed that into your guest experience, and what guests would be doing on site?
That's a great question. This is one of the things I really loved about Zion, and part of my development of this project was trying to be able to be open year round, trying to handle the different elements. And so when you look at glamping structure and just this outdoor hospitality, I mean, you've got sun, heat, wind, cold, rain, hail, floods, water, you name it. You're trying to build these things to handle that. And so Zion specifically, we'll have a 100-degree fluctuation almost. We'll go up to 100, 108 degrees during the summer as our high, down to 10, 15 degrees as a low during the winter time. And so you've got to build these things that can handle that massive fluctuation. That was probably one of the biggest challenges, was that. But I wanted to be open year round. I wanted to be able to create this experience for guests to come have. And also just from a employer standpoint, in trying to keep my team around me, trying to be open longer, but then still give the team a break, and kind of look at the model a little bit differently. So that was kind of the goal, and then just give the guests a different experience when they wanted to. But we've been able to make it to where they can be comfortable in all the different four seasons. And that's been, to me, a huge accomplishment.
It is a huge accomplishment, and I can't tell you how difficult it is, particularly with tent units, to have them be able to handle winter temperatures and still operate. Like, the risk of pipe burstings is huge. I've worked on the pipes burst in my RV a couple of weeks ago. It was a huge pain, and I was helping out at a property here in Bend, Oregon that had really nice tents, and they had pipes burst, even in the shoulder season, and so it is quite a big achievement.
And you're open year round. In peak season, you're able to charge daily rates that far exceed most glamping operators. I think I saw that sometimes they exceed $1,000 per night, which from an operator's perspective isn't too bad at all. So can you put it down to one or maybe a small number of factors that you think allow you to charge such a higher than average daily rate and allow this to be such a success?
Yeah, that's been kind of a fascinating thing, is trying to figure out where we kind of fit in the market and what we can actually charge, and where's that ratio between profitability, guest customer experience, and still offering value. I'm always about value. And with the couple units that we do have, it's called our Star Seeker Superior units, and both of these luxury camps are pretty much halfway up the side of the mountain. We had to pretty much hand carry everything up there and build these things. They're absolutely ridiculous, and we just outfitted them with everything you could think under the sun. Like, they're the ultimate luxurious camp in Zion, in this area. Like, they are absolutely legit. I think it was kind of the first thing. And the other thing is really like what Open Sky is about, is we have a cool location right by Zion National Park. We're off the beaten path. We have ultimate privacy, and we have luxury. We have service. We have a lot of team members on site. We really pride ourselves in the service, almost kind of like a butler service. Like, if you need anything at all, we'll get it to you. And you want room service, we'll bring some fine dining food right to your tent, and pretty much just try to spoil them. A lot of people that come out here for special occasions, honeymoons, anniversaries, and if we can create this special experience for them, this is a spot for it. And we've recently been actually working on a package with Almond Gary, between their Lake Powell location and us, as far as for their guests to come stay. So even for us to be kind of associated with Almond Gary is a huge accomplishment for us. We have a lot of guests that come stay with us with that. And so I almost wonder sometimes if our prices aren't high enough.
Well, Almond Gary, for those who don't know, is it in Utah?
It is in Utah, so it's about 3 hours away from us.
Yeah. And they get I could be wrong, but I feel like Leonardo DiCaprio stayed at one of their locations, and it's that kind of level of where you're getting some serious wealth, traveling to stay there. So I've got to, if you can, I understand if it's early stage and you can't share, then don't worry at all. But if there's something you can share, I'd be interested in knowing a little bit more about that agreement and how that's working.
Yeah, so we're still working through it now. So it's with a company called Authentic Luxury, and they put together some pretty cool packages between different resorts. So we're not finalized with that quite yet, but we're just in the discussions with it. But yeah, we've have quite a few different guests that come overseas that will stay at Almond Gary and then come stay with us as they're kind of jumping around the national parks. And that's just been a huge, I think, win in our book, and just knowing that, okay, we're actually hitting that approachable luxury.
Hi friends, this is your host, Connor Schwab at Sage Outdoor Advisory. If you're launching an outdoor hospitality project like glamping, then we can help. At Sage, we offer feasibility studies and appraisals. Essentially what that means is we look at the market and your proposed business offering and do an in-depth analysis and financial projections to make sure that your business is profitable. This is something that's very helpful to know before you spend all of your time and resources launching. This is also particularly helpful if you're going to be raising money from a bank or private investors to capitalize your project. They're going to want to see this type of in-depth analysis from an independent third-party specialist. We've done over 250 projects across the US in the last 4 years, so we know what it takes to take a project from concept to reality. If this sounds like something that would be helpful to you, you can go to our website, sageoutdooradvisory.com, and you can schedule a complimentary intro call with one of our specialists. Thanks. You earn every dollar of that, high price point, and I know from getting to know you is that you take no shortcuts in the build, in the customer experience, in the website. I mean, kind of A to Z. It's It's really done well. When I was looking to launch my own glamping business, I was going to call it immersive nature hospitality, and the idea being that your unit was truly immersed in nature. And I think a lot of glamping businesses strive for that. But if you look at the layout of your property in that horseshoe canyon, there's a huge amount of separation between each units. So like the privacy and being immersed in those like beautiful red rocks of Zion with some really nice shrubbery and things like that. It's truly like this immersed experience with your luxury unit. So not a surprise there. I know one of the things we talk about, one of the 5 categories for us is like property amenities and what goes into that. And a huge, probably the biggest portion of that is food and bev. And I know that's something that you didn't have in your initial plans, but it's something that you just added. Would love to know how that process has been, any difficulties, what the guest experience has been, has it improved your nightly rates, things like that.
Yeah, food and bev is always a huge challenge. And I didn't really, in the very beginning, really wanted to do a lot of food and bev. But once we got the three camps going up in the very first phase, guests started arriving and saying, well, where can we go eat? Where's food? We got here late. And it kind of became a problem right out of the get-go. And I didn't really want to go build full kitchenettes and kitchens into these things. Like, to me, I felt like our guests we wanted to attract when they go on vacation, they want to go cook their own food. They want to kind of be pampered, essentially. And I have what I kind of have coins called like the glamping golden hour. And this is essentially what you're paying for, is you arrive 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're going to stay there and you're going to experience the magical evening hours come out. The sunset's going to happen. You're going to see the stars come out, and you're going to have this most amazing experience being in nature. Once 10, 11 o'clock comes around, you go to get in bed and you go to sleep. It doesn't matter if you're in a $5,000 tent, if you're in a $100 hotel, you're asleep at that point. It really doesn't matter. So to me, like what you're paying for is those few hours right there. So I kind of call it the glamping golden hour. Now, if a guest has to come to your property and leave for 3 hours to go find food or 2 hours to go find food, sit down, eat, and then come back, guess what? They've missed those special hours. It's 8:30, 9 o'clock now. They're just going to see the stars, which is fine, but you just missed that special moment. So I wanted to find ways to keep those guests on site if they want to and giving them that service. So that's where the food and bev started at. It's been a very, I'm going to say, we pretty much have bootstrapped everything, but we've had to just build it out piece by piece. And we went and bought a really nice 22-foot food trailer that we ended up getting full permits for, put up on a foundation, just to kind of build prototypes out, just to get some proof of concept. And that was the first year last year we did that. So we hired pretty much 2 cooks, kind of got a little menu put together, and we served just our guests. And realized that, yes, we could actually do something with this. Guests were loving it. We were doing room service. And like, okay, let's build out the restaurant program a little bit more. This year, we were really, really focused on it. And I've just been very fortunate to have a chef that was also very business-minded. And he absolutely loved this concept and this idea. And so he's really taken this on and pushed it. So all of this is really to his credit in making this happen. But this fall was an incredible month. So we really built this beautiful outdoor dining area. Everything's kind of really emerged into nature. And he's really pushed this fine dining concept, which is just kind of bizarre, having this delicious of food up out in the middle of nowhere. And he's been able to pull it off.
And are non-guests allowed to go to that restaurant? Is it open for the public?
So in order to make this to even make sense to have this amenity for our guests, we had to allow non-guests onto it. So we did open that up this back in June for non-guests. So everything is reservation only though. So you can't just really show up because it is limited amount of space, limited amount of seating. And we serve about 25 to 30 people a night. And that's really it. Like it's just a very exclusive experience.
And did you have any pushback at all, or did you have to kind of carefully design the location and layout of the restaurant to kind of preserve the seclusion of the glampers, or was it pretty straightforward?
Everything at Open Sky has been around aesthetics. Want things to be cohesive, I want things to blend in. I mean, you'll see even where we put our solar system, we put it on the back end of the property, we put some big massive dirt mounds up, like you see the solar when you drive to the property, it's okay, cool, yeah, they're off grid, there's all the solar panels. Then you get up to your tent, you can't see anything. And that was a huge challenge because this entire canyon's in a horseshoe, it's in a bowl, so everybody's looking down the canyon. It was extremely challenging. The restaurant piece, we kind of put it off our little lobby area there, And this has just been kind of bolted on piece by piece. And this last fall, we actually went and built out a couple really cool shipping containers as our indoor dining area because it started getting too cold. We kind of added that on piece on, and it's really turned out to be a really cool experience that I never thought was going to get to this point.
Even such a cool dining experience, like, you know, going to stay out in the tents, obviously very cool, but even if someone's coming to Utah and there's no tents available, I feel like it would be incredible just to go get to dine out there because it's such a cool property, and almost have that dining under the stars or next to the, you know, campfire experience would be very desirable. I love it.
And you've clearly, as we've already said, you know, you've gone through your fair share of hurdles, and you've turned what looked like, you know, I'm sure there are several times where you looked at the projects and thought this might not actually happen, and you've scrapped your way to eventually creating something really special. As Connor said, it's his favorite glamping experience he's been on. You've got a kind of fine dining restaurant as well, so you've ended up with that as well, and so I'm presuming along the way there have been a lot of mistakes that you wouldn't repeat if you were to do it all over again. And I'm intrigued as to know if there's any in particular that you remember making that really served as a lesson and that might be passed on to our audience along the way.
Yeah, I don't really like saying the word mistake too much because I feel like this industry, like you can almost create anything you want. You put your mind to it, and there's really no set direction or idea of what it has to be, and it's what makes glamping super special and unique. And that's what I love about this industry is like whatever you can envision and create and come up with in your 1 a.m. middle of the night, wake up with this idea type of an idea and actually go create it. That I really like to look at it from as lessons. And so as far as lessons, there's been several. One is that we spent thousands of hours building performas, business plans, trying to go raise funds, trying to get the first project started, and realized it was just too big for who we were at that period of time. We really need to get something started. So I think the first lesson was to create a prototype. Nobody really believed at that point in time a tent could be that cool. We could actually outfit it like we did. So once we created the prototype, it really kind of changed things. The other thing is I spent way too much time and money on this big grandiose plan as far as when it came to like this grand lodge that I had envisioned. It just didn't really make any sense. So we spent a couple of $1,000s on that. So I got this big, massive row of plants in my closet that it's my deep, dark secret that I don't really like sharing a whole lot, but that's probably one of my biggest ones that doesn't really have a whole lot of value at this point. But I think one of the biggest challenges...
Share them to the neighbors if you want to scare them for Halloween.
Yeah, with this project was phasing the project. So we had to do this in order to prove the concept and get it started to where we were. But that created a massive challenge to where we'd open up, go operations, we would hit it hard for 6 to 8 months, and then we would slam that thing shut so fast within a day of that thing being shut down, there'd be 15 trackles up there, all these guys would start showing up, and we would tear that place apart doing the next phase of construction. And we would rush through that, and we would set some pretty aggressive deadlines with it. And on our second phase, right through after COVID had hit during fall or winter of 21 and the spring of 2022, and when all the supply chain issues happened, we had already set our dates to open up in that June 1st of that next year.
I love this story. Sorry, keep going.
And coming about, all the tents got stuck on a barge in LA for an extra month and a half. So they showed up to our property pretty much the end of April, and we had already bookings for June 1st. So we pretty much worked around the clock for the next month and a half, building up the 7 new tents. Our front doors we had ordered back in November got put on delayed, back ordered, and those suckers showed up a week before the guests showed up. So we were like putting in the front doors. And even the day the guests showed up, we had like maybe 1 or 2 tents ready, and we had all the family and friends up there. We were putting furniture together, and the tents we got ready, those guests didn't show up when they said they were, but then other guests for other tents showed up before they were supposed to, and we had them send them over to chef. I'm like, hey chef, like wine and dine these guys, get whatever they want. We're still putting furniture in
Sorry,
the
we're
tent.
still putting the doors on your units. Please,
Yeah.
please enjoy a beverage.
It was ridiculous, dude. I don't think I ever want to experience that again. But that was probably one of the most intense moments of our entire lives.
When we ask the biggest mistakes question, we always like to show the flip side as well. And obviously, with the number of issues that you face, most of which are out of your control, you obviously had to make some good decisions and employ some good problem solving techniques. So, is there any decision that sticks out in your mind that you made along the way that has really made the difference to the success, or has really kind of like laid the foundations for the success that you're seeing today?
Yeah, looking on that question, to me, I think the biggest single point is even 7 years ago when we created this Open Sky brand to where it is today, and having kind of like the foresight a little bit to the glamping industry really exploding, and a lot of new operators coming in the space, which is really awesome. And I always appreciate more people coming in because it just makes the industry better. But looking at it from trying to position ourselves in 7 years to still be relevant and not be irrelevant, because this industry is changing so fast right now, and laying that foundation to being a very unique one-off place. Like, it's just so hard to replicate this that it makes it super special, and also being Zion National Park, I feel like it's going to be relevant for a long period of time. So I always try to look at things in long term. I'm not really much of a short term type of guy. I'd rather take the brunt right now, do things right, put the right infrastructure in, do the right things for the canvas, do the right things for the tents, do the right things for your team, and look at your business as a whole, as a long term play, not a short term, hey, I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna get out in a year. Please, like, if you like get into this, like, just really look at it, like, make it your life, make it your passion. So I think laying that foundational work, but then sticking to it. There were so many times I wanted to say no to that brand and pivot over to putting up some $1,000 tents just to get the business started, to prove it. That temptation happened so many times. But to see it today, that vision actually come to life almost to a T, essentially, of what it was that my dreams were, is just magical to me, that was able to pull it off and land this thing and still be functional, still be alive, still be in a healthy position. So that's probably one, I guess, the biggest thing that I feel like we've done right.
Yeah, and to echo that, I think I mentioned it before, but like, you just strike me as a guy who takes no shortcuts, and I think that's one of your secret sauce and what's led to so much success. And oftentimes when I'm speaking with clients, raising money and raising capital in the glamping space is very difficult, and oftentimes I'm telling people, or I'll speak about Open Sky as an example of how you can bootstrap and say, hey, like, start with 2 or 3 units, really prove the concept, prove the demand. Then you can, then you might be able to go to a bank, or you might be able to raise private money to get up to 10, 15 units, and then maybe put a restaurant in and kind of take it piece by piece. And would love to know a little bit more about your future plans, either with this property or with future properties. And if you have anything, you'd like to ask the audience in terms of those future plans, like, feel free, now's the time.
Yeah, I feel like with just bootstrapping the project, you just have to in the beginning. And with that comes a lot of challenges too, to where it's a lot of extra cost to tear things out and redo it, but you have to do it at some point. And it's just the nature of the beast. And so with Open Sky, we're finally at a point now where we're getting stabilized, like it's functioning, it's flowing, got an amazing team now, and the guests are loving it. And I feel like we kind of got this secret sauce put together. And we are looking to grow now. We are looking for sustainable growth. And so if anybody out there, like, we're looking for a couple more beautiful spots to grow into over the next few years. So if you feel like the Open Sky brand would fit with that, we'd be love to talk to you. And then even for the right investor and the capital partner, I mean, it definitely takes some money, and we'd rather do a bigger like phase project versus like how we did it this time, because there's a lot of extra cost and overhead with that. But I feel like we've got a good team together, and so it'd be fun to see what it's out there and where it can go in the next few years.
Amazing. Well, there's plenty of people listening to this who will have beautiful properties. So if you are interested in becoming part of the brand, then please reach out to Bygnal. All of his contact details will be in the description, so please do reach out. Now, this is the question that we close every interview with an existing operator with. I'm sure if I had asked you this question at various points of your journey to opening Open Sky, then you probably would have said no. But I'm pretty sure I know what the answer is going to be now that you're looking back and the business is in the place that it is. So, Bygnal, are you happy with your decision to start a glamping business?
I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
That's the least enthusiastic answer we've had.
I didn't want to completely spoil it for you, but
He's got a lot of scars.
Yeah, I still have a lot of PTSD from it all. Honestly, it's like the last 4 years have just been a big, massive blur. But I'm finally getting my senses back and becoming a normal human being again. So it's becoming a yes. But even 3 months, 4 months ago, I would have probably said no.
Well, if that's I suppose that's a good advert for anyone with beautiful properties. It's really hard to do it on your own, so maybe strike a deal with Bygnal and he'll do it for you. But thank you. We really appreciate it. There's lots of wisdom in that, and we're really happy with it. If anyone does have any opportunities for you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, probably just reach out to me on LinkedIn. Probably just the best contact there. I'll have all my information on there for you. And I just want to say, thank you to Nick. Thank you to Connor. Connor, you've been a great friend the last few years. It's been great to know you and work with Sage Outdoor Hospitality. You guys have been super instrumental in us getting to where we're at with our current banking provider. And Nick, it's a pleasure meeting you. I've heard a lot about you. I was even talking to my GM. I was coming on this podcast. He's like, with Nick? I'm like, yeah, with Nick. He's like, heck yeah, I know that guy. I listen to his stuff all the time. I'm like, well, I can finally get to meet him.
Nice, that's good to know.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Well, yeah, such a pleasure. And if anyone does have land or property, it's hard to imagine a better brand or a better partner. As you heard from Bygnal, he's got 4 years of lessons and scars of building where he has today. So skip the line, reach out to him, see if he's interested, because that'd be a great opportunity. And Bygnal, such a pleasure. This is the most I think we've laughed on a podcast episode together. So sorry we've been laughing at your pain, but I think it's all in good spirit. And thanks everyone. Thanks for being here.